All right, what's up everyone? This is Don with Third Creative, and this is the walkthrough tutorial video for Star Power Multi-Sport Photoshop template. In this video, I'm going to walk you through all the layers, cover the processes, and hopefully cover anything and everything that you might need to know in order to create the best images possible using this design. Before we jump into it, few things about this template. It was originally created for a local cheer team, but I wanted to make this a true multi-sport template. So I made some adjustments. I guess the first thing that I would talk about is the ability to either show feet or hide feet. So showing feet makes for an impactful image, but it is a little more time, a little more work, and it's definitely not for everyone. So I wanted to make sure you have the option to do one or the other. So you can see these handful of sample images. If you do choose to show feet, then I wanted to give you a few options for the floor. There is a star theme, which I think kind of goes hand in hand with cheer, especially all-star cheer, but cheer in general. But it may not be suitable for every image, especially if it's another sport or their mascot has nothing to do with a star. So as you can see over here on the right, you have the option to insert or use a letter character of your choice, and I have it kind of skewed and perspective warped to give the appearance that it's flat on the floor, and you can go with just the text character or letter itself, or you can turn on this circle shape, or I guess technically it's an oval shape, and have the letter over it contrasting. So a few options that you have if you choose to show feet on any of your images. And here you can just kind of see some examples of where I used the stars for cheer. I took them out for football, and really for any other sport. I replaced this upper star with a letter that is either for their mascot or the town. And in this case, it's a B is for both, but and it's actually that way for most of these schools. Rider Raiders, Legacy Leopards, you get the idea. But we have the R, the L. Here you can see where I used the floor. And you can see where I've turned off the stars, kind of left these stars back here. But I just really wanted to demonstrate how it can be used for other sports outside of cheer, because when you initially see this, I think at first glance, you would assume that this is a cheer template. But enough about that. The last thing I want to talk about before we jump into it is the fact that I did choose to use a font that I really like, but requires a commercial license. It's relatively inexpensive, but you don't have to use it. I just want you to know that all of these sample images were used with this Thunder script font, which at the time of this recording is $18. So if you don't want to spend the additional $18, I've got you covered. I totally get it. It's not for everyone. You will be provided an alternate link, and you can see them right here in this video, but here's an alternate that is similar. And if we jump back over here, you can look at them side by side and basically see that you get the same general feel and look. I just personally like the way that Thunder script looks a little better. So that is my suggestion, and that is what will be set up by default when you open the templates. And so if you go with any other font, whether it's this one or any other font of your choice, you may just have to change those text layers over to the font that you wish to use. So now we got that out of the way, let's jump into it. I guess before we get into layer by layer breakdowns, if you are just opening a template, first thing you want to do is decide, are you showing feet or are you not showing feet? By default, hide feet is on, which is this very top layer folder. If you decide that you want to show feet on this lower image, you would want to turn this top layer folder off, come down to the one right below it, show feet option. I think I misspelled that there, but that's okay. You can turn it on, and now it's set up so that you have the subject name text layers over here out of the way. There's a few things that are different about it. So keep that in mind. And then if you are not doing this for cheer, you would want to open up this folder and turn off this lower foreground stars, assuming you don't want those stars. And then you would come down to the very bottom background folders and open it up, turn off this star as well, and then turn on this letter character here. And so now you'll be set up for a non-cheer design. All right, let's go back to the original state here. Close up these layer folders. All right, so you've opened it up. You're going to open up the very bottom background folder, and we're just going to work our way through it, starting with the very bottom layer, which usually is change background color, and it is in this case. So if you double click on this little box here with the white, it'll bring up your color picker. You can use your slider, pick any color that works. You can sample. If you come over here, you see the eyedropper. You can try to sample out of their uniform. Doesn't always nail it. See, they're kind of a deep red, but it'll get you in the general area, and then you can fine tune it. I usually go a little darker, a little more saturated. But basically, that's it. Just pick any color. Next, we have our upper background circle shape. I'm going to turn that on so you can see what that looks like. As you'll notice, this repeating circular text and these stars that wrap around the secondary background folder, you know, they're the same color, so they get lost. But you can kind of see how I handle that. I'm able to change the color of the text where it overlaps this circle. I could do the same with the stars. In fact, I did here. But you can see where I used it on the right, where I didn't on the left. Same thing up here. On the right I used it, the left I didn't. Both of these I did not use it. Both of these I did. So just some real world examples of how that is used and kind of what that looks like. So you can play around with it. If you decide to use it, changing the color is very simple. There's a color overlay. Double click the word color overlay to get your layer styles panel up. You'll see this little box here. Click on it, and here we are again at the color picker window. Same thing. You can, in fact, when you picked your background color, you could hit Control or Command C, or right click and select copy to copy this code. And then if you have it copied, you can just paste it in every time you need it, save you a little bit of time. We'll turn that off. Here we have repeating stars circles. So if I turn that off, you can see we lose the stars. If you don't want them, just turn it off. If you do want them and you want them to all be the same color, just double click the word color overlay, same thing that we just talked about. If you decide that you want to make them different colors, so for example, you have this background turned on and you want them to show up here, it's not difficult. You can double click. This is a text layer. Even though they are stars, there is a font that is free for commercial use from Adobe Fonts using your Adobe subscription. So you treat it just like a font. Turn this off, this color overlay, double click the T icon, get everything selected, and now you can hover over with your cursor and click and drag to select the stars that you want to change the color. And you can come up to any of these three places that you see red to get your color picker, but I'm going to go with white just so you can see it. Now most of it's covered up, you're not seeing it, but you get the idea. If you are feeling adventurous and you feel the need to adjust the size or distance of these stars, you can do that. Double click to select everything, and up here in your character panel You can increase or reduce this value to get a larger or smaller star. You can increase or decrease this value here in your kerning. Currently it's set at 650, but you can make it greater or lesser to increase or decrease the space in between your stars. So I try to find values that look good just as is, so more than likely you won't be doing that, but you can if you want to or if you feel like you need to. Next we have our repeating text circle, so you can see where it says Eagle Cheer, and it's repeating over and over and over. So the way you will adjust that, the same thing with colors. You can double click to select everything, and you can change the color with your color picker. You can select certain parts of the text to change just that color if you want or need to. Totally up to you. And just like the stars, you can increase or decrease the size up here in your character panel, or the kerning, or any of these values. But the way you'd want to change what it says is just to double click the T to select everything, and I'm just going to type over it. And so we're going to say that it's Bulldog football. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in here and hopefully not get any typos. Probably will. And once you type in what you want it to say, go ahead and hit the space bar one time, assuming you just want one space in between the words. Now I'm going to click and drag to select everything. If you go so far that it disappears, just come back down a little bit with your cursor. All right, now I've got everything there highlighted. I'm going to hit Command C on a Mac, Control C on PC to select, or actually to copy everything that's selected. Now on my keyboard I'm going to hit the right arrow, and you'll see that my cursor is right here where at the end. So now all I have to do is hit Control or Command V over and over. I was just checking to see if I spelled it correctly. Just keep doing it all the way, and you'll see it goes all the way around. And that's it. So now it's changed. So you don't have to keep typing it, risking typos. If you get it typed correctly the first time, along with one space bar, copy that and just Control or Command V paste over and over and over until you fill up the space. All right, hopefully all that makes sense. If it doesn't, rewatch it, shoot me an email, whatever you need to do. So we will go back and let's see what we got here. Letter option behind the upper text. So this is where if you don't want the star, you will come up here and turn the star off, and instead we'll turn this layer on. And so by default it's a red H. You probably, I guess first thing would want to change it. So let's say I'm going to do, and I would do capital for sure. We'll say we're going to do a B. Now it's just a matter of scaling and positioning it to where it looks good. Right here by default doesn't look good, so I'm going to click on this corner anchor point and I'm going to drag it down. And now there's a few things you can do. You can hover until you get this little curved arrow, and if you want to curve it, you can curve it in any direction. You can click and hold down Shift, click and drag in to make it smaller, click and drag out to make it bigger, but you get the idea. So you just want to scale and position it how it looks good. Now you can change the font if you want. I did that here, but most of them I left it at the Thunder script. So you can see how I scaled and positioned this H, this L, we have an R, and we have a B. You get the idea. Changing the color is pretty simple. It's a text layer. So again, you'll see, if you double click here, you'll see these little red boxes all over the place. Character panel, property panel, here, up here. So any of these, you get your color picker and it's the same stuff. Just pick the color that you want. Very simple. There is a stroke outline. And so if you double click on the word stroke, Bring up this layer style panel, and again, it's the color picker. Pick any color you want. You can increase the size or decrease the size if you want to. Same thing goes for the drop shadow that you see is checked down here. If you select that, you can increase the opacity if you want it super dark, increase the distance, increase the size. You can easily get carried away, but it's all adjustable and customizable if you want. Next, we have a exposure vignette. Now, if I turn this on, it's extremely subtle. You're not seeing it very much. So it is an exposure adjustment layer. So I have my properties up here, but if you don't have it already, if you double click, it'll pop up in a little window where you can see these sliders. And this very top one, if you want a little less, you can go to the right, but if you want more, you can bring it down to the left. In fact, actually, let me bring this down here where we can see it a little bit better. That's another thing. I had a hard time deciding where to put the vignette. You might want it to be on top of the repeating text and the stars. You might want it to be behind, so just it's up to you. You can click and drag and place this wherever you want, but you get the idea. It's actually, let me bring it out of that subfolder. There, you can really see it. So you can kind of see the effect that it gives. And so I went real heavy on this one, kind of heavy on this one, even though that it's white. Added a little drama to it. And then I didn't use it mostly on the cheer where I want it kind of light and bright, a little less drama to it. But that's how you would use that if you choose to use that. And remember that you can move it around. Let's see, next we have, of course, the star. So if you left that on, it's the same thing. There's a color overlay on this one. So you would change the color of the star that way. Same thing with the stroke outline. You can double click on any of these layer styles or smart filters and make the adjustments. So we have our actual color. We have our stroke outline. Once you have this up, you can just go in between the ones that have check marks. And you can change the values on any of these to your liking. Same thing with the upper right circle outline. Actually, let me explain this. So if I scroll on the layer panel a little bit, you'll see there's two circles. And so let's get this turned back on. This one down here is basically, turning it back on, is this outline circle that's red. And I thought about just adding a stroke outline to one of these circle shapes, but I decided to go this way so that I could clip a paper texture to it. I didn't want the paper texture on the inner circle. I only wanted it on the border. But then I also wanted to be able to have a very subtle drop shadow between the circles. Adds a little bit of dimension. So that's why I set it up this way. But to change the color of this outline, it's very simple. The color overlay, same thing. Just clicking on the word color overlay in the red box. You can also click on the drop shadow and adjust it. Now, one thing I'll say is you can turn it off. There's a few that I did that. I thought it looked better just not having the border at all. You could also select the layer, select your move tool, click on an anchor point, hold down shift, and click and drag out to make it bigger. Actually, if you want it to stay centered, it is shift option on a Mac. I'm not sure what that is on a PC, but 2 keys from the left side of the space bar. I need to refamiliarize myself with PC. It's just been too long. But holding down those 2 buttons at the same time, shift and option, it allows you to keep everything centered. So you can make it bigger or smaller if you want to. Next we have that paper texture that I was talking about. It's extremely subtle, but if we zoom in, you can kind of see it here. There's a little bit of paper texture on some of these layers. Probably don't need to mess with it, but you can double click on the word levels to the smart filter, and you can bring this left anchor left to right to bring out the blacks a little bit more. You can get this right anchor and go right or left to increase or decrease the lights. Just keep in mind that whatever color you have selected, it's going to make it a little darker more than likely, and you just don't want to get too carried away, but you can adjust that if you want or need to. Let's zoom back out, pan back out. Next we have this upper right circle. This is the frame, basically the frame for your upper subject. So by default it's just a solid color, which is white. So you can change that to anything you want. But there are some occasions where you might want to go with the gradient option. So we go back, you can see right here how it's light. It's almost like a spotlight effect. Same thing here. Basically anytime I used color, I was going with the gradient. All of these went with the gradient option instead of the solid color. So that's up to you. But if you turn this off and turn on the gradient, by default it's like what, gray to black or white to black. But basically turn on, let me back up, turn off color overlay, turn on gradient overlay, double click the word gradient overlay, and you'll get your layer styles panel. From here you can click this little gradient box to get your gradient editor pulled up. I've got so many saved gradients. I can usually get a good starting point just by clicking on any of these. But regardless of where you're at, you'll see this down here. Basically the left anchor here is going to be the outer color, which you would want to be darker. So if you click on that, you'll see this color picker. So again, click on that to bring up the color picker window. So now let's say we want like a dark blue, like almost a navy. So let's just go real dark. Now you have almost a purple because it's going to red. But if you get a good starting point, hit OK and come over to this other anchor and click on it. Now you can repeat that and go with something a little lighter. Now it probably helps to see what it looks like with a subject in there, but another option is that you can come up, turn this red layer off, and you can kind of see a little bit better. Now I have this letter over it as well, so you can turn that off. Now you can really see what it looks like and fine tune it if you want to or if you need to. So we'll go back the way that it was, and here we have a drop shadow, so you can adjust that if you want to, but you'll see that it's right here. More than likely you won't have to do anything with that. Now it's totally up to you, but if you want, you can have this letter turned on. It just adds a little something behind them. So some of the sample images I used it, some of them I didn't. If I turn it off, you can see it's just kind of a flat white, and that looks good. If you want to add a little bit more detail or dimension, you can turn it on. Now I have it where the background is white and so is the letter, and so all you're really seeing is this inner shadow. So if I turn that off, you can see a little bit better. It's just a little inner drop shadow. So there's an H back there, just something. You can adjust the inner shadow values if you want to. More than likely, you probably won't do that, but you may want to change the color. So you can come up here and maybe you want a little more contrast. Maybe that's too much. But you can go with the color, or you could keep it the same color as the background, and you can turn on this stroke. So by default is red, but if you click on the word stroke to bring up your layer styles, it's the same thing. You can change the color. You can also change the size. You can play around with it, fine tune it to your liking. And that is it for the background layers. I feel like that was a lot. Next we have our upper subject images. This is just a folder where you would drag and drop your upper subject images. You'll want to scale and position them to your liking. Now, by default, I have a layer mask on here, and that just happens to line up with this shape circle. So if I hold down Control Command and I click on this little icon right here, you should be able to see the marching ants, and that's how I was able to make this layer mask. I'm going to go ahead and deselect that. So basically, anything you put in here is only going to show in this layer mask. Now, if you wanted to, and I might be getting a little in the deep water here, but if you wanted to scale this down, scale it up, move it left, move it right, what you would want to do is select this upper subject image folder. Now you want to have your background layers folder open, and basically you want to hold down Control Command and start clicking on the layers that you want to maintain proportion with it, keep everything lined up. So it would be really all of this. We're going to skip that star, we're going to skip this, but we do want the repeating. So basically we have the repeating stars, the repeating text, we have the outline circle, we have the background circle, and we have the letter. And we have this folder that has the layer mask in it. So now we can click on this anchor point and hold down Shift. Now I can scale it down, and I can move it around. And like I said, that I might be getting way too deep. There's just all kinds of things that I run into when I'm customizing images, where I just want to change little details, and it could be something like that. Otherwise, you're going to leave it like it is, more than likely. This layer mask by default matches up with the circle. If you decide that you want to be able to have the subject's head extend above the circle without being cut off like this, I'm going to show you how to do that. If you select this layer mask, make sure you see this outline on it so you know it's selected. This is not selected, this is. Just grab this marquee tool right here, and now click and drag down. You can come down as far as you want, but just keep in mind you don't want to come down too far or it'll look weird. But I'm going to come to like right here. Now, with that layer mask selected, I'm going to hit this little paint bucket. I want white, so I have black and black. So I could click on this and do white. You can hit X to invert, all kinds of options, but just make sure you have white. White reveals, black conceals. That's the rule when it comes to layer masks. And I'm just going to click right here where her head would be, and it's going to fill in all of this area. You can see it's very small, but that's all you have to do so that their head can extend above the circle if you want it to. Otherwise, you just keep them all inside the circle. I think I did say this was going to be super detailed, super in depth, and I'm proving that right for sure. All right, we're getting there. We have our upper left text layers. A little bit to unpack here. So I have these labeled as sport, as school name, as mascot name, as year. But that's just how they are by default. So you'll see, like, I didn't even use one of the layers on this one, and I just kind of switch it up. So it may always line up with that, but not always. You may not use all of them. So right here, I left the layer out. Same thing up here. So you really just have to identify what each one of these are. You can turn them on, you can turn them off, and you want to customize them in a way that fits. Any of these text layers, you're going to have to probably scale and position so that it looks good. Just simply clicking on here and typing in, you know, what you need it to say. If you just do that, more than likely it's not going to be scaled and positioned the best that it could be. I have it all scaled and positioned in a way that looks good. if it were to say Holiday Eagle Cheer. So just keep in mind you might have to adjust that, and you can see these examples how I made some of these adjustments. So you may have to increase the size or decrease the size of some of these fonts. But let's go with sport name. Let's say we were to change this to football. So I'm double clicking on the T, and anything a script, I don't do all caps. I do capital on the first character, lowercase the rest of the way. All right, so we've got football, and that goes way too far. You don't want it covering up your subject's head. So what we want to do is, with our move tool here selected, or you could always decrease the value here, but what I like to do is hold down shift, click and drag these anchor points and kind of bring it down and position it how I want. You might rotate it. It just depends on what looks good. Once you get it how you like it, and that might still be a little bit too big. Something you want to keep in mind is that each of these text layers has a wrinkled paper texture clip to it. So you might want to move it around and get it where you can also scale these down or up, but you want to get it where you can see some of that wrinkle texture. Just add some dimension. But what I would do is just customize all your text first and then adjust all of these wrinkle overlays so they fit after you have your text arranged the way that you want. Another thing that I want to point out is that I scaled this down quite a bit. Scaling things up and scaling things down that have these layer style adjustments, the values don't change. So the look is different. This stroke outline looks way more prominent now than it did, because if I open it up, I have the value here at 75. It remained at 75 even though I scaled the size of the text way down. So if you like the way it looks, you leave it. If you don't, just come in here and reduce or increase, depending on what you need, the value. Now decreasing the value of the stroke makes the drop shadow a lot more prominent. So you might like it and leave it. If you don't, just come down here to where the drop shadow menu is, and you would decrease the distance and just decrease it and keep an eye on it. Stop where you think it looks good. So it's kind of a lot, but once you get it down, you don't have to mess with it again. Just need to do it once, for the file. And I think that's it. It's just scaling and positioning and arranging to your liking. It's the same concepts. They're all text layers. You can change the colors the same way. You can make them all the same color. You can make them different. The stroke outline is here. Same thing. You control the outline color and the size. That's pretty much it. So moving right along, let's turn off hide feet and open up show feet. This isn't too in-depth. So right off the bat, we have our subject folder. You will insert your subject images into this red folder, scale and position them accordingly. You probably want to add some reflection or a ground shadow. You don't have to get carried away, just something to make it look a little more realistic. Below that is where we have our floor option layers. So I'm going to explain a little bit here. By default, we have just the star outline, and you can change the color the same way with this color overlay. You can change it to anything you want. You can scale it up or scale it down if you want to, but more than likely you'll leave it alone. The one below it is basically the inside of this star. If you turn it on, I just have a little bit darker. It's a gray color, but it can be changed to anything. I could go red, I could go black. You can change it to literally anything you want. Now, you can leave the border on, or if you want a solid star, you can make it the same color as the border, or you can turn the border off. So that is up to you on what you do there. The other option is to turn off both of the top two layers and work with the other option. So the third layer here is your letter. So we can't quite see that because it's white on white. But if I double click color overlay, I'm just going to sample this red there. Now you can see it. We've got an H. It's got a perspective warp, skewed slightly, just to give the three-dimensional appearance that it's floor. Let's actually, no, we'll get out of that. We'll leave it white. Let's turn on this other floor layer, which basically just adds this appearance that it's a circle on the floor with a letter inside. So if you want to change the actual letter, it is a smart object. So you will double click this icon and it's going to bring up a separate window. So you have your text layer here. I'm going to double click and I'm going to change it to, what do we have? Let's just, what's a good one? Let's go with a B. All right, so it kind of moved it over a little bit. I'm going to scoot it over just a little bit. It doesn't matter too much. Try to just keep it generally in the center. We're going to go ahead and close this out. When this window comes up, make sure you hit save, and that way it will retain. All right, so now we have our B. Now I might need to adjust it a little bit. Maybe I moved it over a little bit too much. I'm going to click on this right anchor point, and I'm just going to click inside and drag it over. And I think you can use your arrow key up and down, left, right. Get it where you like it, and you can hit the check mark and commit it. Now, if you really want to be picky, maybe you think it needs a little more, look a little flatter, a little taller, you can click any of these top or bottom anchor points, drag up, drag down, and you can see what it does. So if you think the perspective needs adjustment just a little bit, you can do that. Super deep dive. And those are the floor options. Just picking which one you want, changing your letter, if you go with the letter, changing your colors, etc. And that's it for full body. Turn that off. Last one, we're getting there. All right, so we've got our hide feet option. Let's open it up. Right out of the gate, we have our paper texture, which kind of just covers all of this stuff down here. Adds a little bit of texture. You can adjust it with the levels if you want to. But we've got our lower text and star layers. Then we have a subfolder that contains our star layers. So you can turn that off if you're not wanting to use it. Leave it on if you are. Changing the colors. So what you could actually do is, let's say for example you use this star up here. You could come down and you've got this first star on the top left already customized. So if you select that star and you come down here over the word effects, right click, come down and hit copy layer style. Then you can come up here, hold down shift, select one, hold down shift, select the other. You got them both highlighted. Now you can right click and you can hit, it's somewhere in here, paste layer style. Now I'm going to do it, but you're not going to be able to tell because it's exactly the same already. But that is a quick way to not have to repeat everything. But it's very simple, changing the color with a color overlay, the stroke. You can adjust the drop shadow if you want to. And then once you do your first star, right click, copy layer style, then you can paste it to the others. Save a little bit of time. Anytime we can save some time, that's a good thing. Next we have our side tab layers. It says reposition. You may not need to, but you might want to. So that is this tab over here. I can turn it off, turn it on. It just says Holiday Eagles. It's a nice little accent. But inside we have our layers. There's a subfolder that contains the shape layer. This is a shape layer, so you can click on the corners and you can make it any size you want it. You can make it bigger, smaller, thinner, taller, etc. Changing the color is with the color overlay, very simple. We have our, now left this as Eagles and Holiday, but you get the idea. It's basically the city or the town or the school name, and then their mascot, or anything else you want it to say. That's totally up to you. Just simple text layer. So I'm gonna change this just to demonstrate. We'll stick with Bulldogs. And we'll go ahead and change that. So once I have that in there, I'm going to click on the anchor point. I could use my left, right arrow keys, or I can just click inside and drag and position it. Once I get it where I want it, click that check mark at the top or just hit enter. Now we'll go to the next text layer here. I'm going to zoom in just so I can see what I'm working with. I'm going to click on the anchor point, click inside, drag it over. We'll just put it right in there. Now, let's see what we got. We got Burnett. So that's a little too big. So I'm going to scale this down. Clicking on an anchor point, holding down shift. I'm going to scale it and position it maybe about like that. Maybe arrow key down just a little bit. Now, if I want them to be different colors, I can do that. If I want them to be the same, I can select both, come up here, and change them. Totally up to you. They're clipped to this, let's go back to black. They're clipped to this shape layer. So you can even try to get, a little fancy with it, scale it where it kind of runs off. Just depends on the look that you like and that you want. But once you have that customized, you can select the folder that it's in, and you can position it, scale it anywhere you want. Now, you also have the option to bring it over to this side. You can move the text layers over just a little bit if you want to, but you can put it anywhere you want, as big or as small, or you can even turn it off if you don't want it at all. It does have a drop shadow on the folder, so if you want it to appear to be like a layer, you can turn that on and fine tune the drop shadow if you want to. Next we have, let's see, subtext classification. So here's what I did. And it just depends. You have to decide, do you want it all the same color with the exception of the text that's in front of this bar? If you do, then all you need to do is work with the color overlay that is on this folder. Same thing with the folder below it, which is all of the other text layers. So I'm going to demonstrate. If I double click on this color overlay, click on this box, let's go with blue, hit OK. And let's say their other color is yellow. So I'll come up to subtext, click on this color overlay, and we'll go with like a gold. All right, that's it. You customize all the colors. Now, if you don't want to do it that way and you want to do something more like you see here, you'll just need to make sure that you turn off these color overlays. So hopefully this doesn't trip too many of you up. If you start working with these layers, you don't notice this color overlays turn on and nothing changes, and I'll probably get an email or two. But hopefully it doesn't trip you up for too long. It's there to make it easier for you, I promise, not to make it more difficult or trick you. But once you turn these off, you can adjust them, scale them any way that you like. The 5 stars below has a color overlay, even though it is a text layer, so you would change the color with the color overlay. If you want to make each star a different color, mix it up, just turn that color overlay off, and then you can select whatever stars it is that you want to change. Very simple. Let's see. I think we're about there. I don't think there's much else to explain in that folder. We have our full name. We have this bar back here. Change the color with the color overlay. Very simple. You may need to increase or decrease the size of this name. If you have really long names, you're using the stars, you might run out of room. Keep that in mind. But the last thing we have is our lower subject with a sample image. So This is where you'll place your subjects. Common question I get is how to adjust the gradient mask. And so I've been covering this on almost all of my tutorial videos as of late. Two ways. The cheat way, which is a little quicker, just not as good, is to click on this little chain link to unlock or unlink the layer mask from the layer folder. Once you do that, make sure that the layer mask is selected. Make sure you have your move tool. Now, click on this little anchor point here. You can bring it up, you can bring it down. It's a little more limited, but it allows you to make subtle adjustments. However, the best way, in my opinion, is to not do it that way. Instead, just make sure you have your layer mask selected. Go up here, find your gradient tool wherever you have it. I have it on my toolbar right here. At the top, you'll notice I've got a red gradient because I was working with the red. You want to make sure you have black to white or white to black. So I'm going to choose white to black. And now you can adjust it to your liking. I click, hold down Shift, drag, let go where I want. Now, as long as you see these anchor points on your screen, you can adjust it without starting over. Now the star is showing through her legs, so we know we need to bring that down. You can get it crooked, but if you hold down Shift, it'll help you keep it completely vertical. So I don't want to go above the star, but I can stop right here. I can grab this bottom one, hold down Shift, make it as gradual or as abrupt as I want. I can make it as high or as low as I want. So that looks like a mess now. We'll go back the way it was. But that's all there is to it. Anytime you see a gradient mask, it's very easy. You just got to get the hang of it. Okay. That is a long one and starting to feel like a cough coming on. So I think I've been talking way too much, but hopefully I've covered everything. If there is anything that I didn't cover that you need to know, keep in mind that everything I went over, it should apply to all the other files. There's only very little subtle differences, but it's all the same concepts. This should get it. But if not, shoot me an email, don@thirdcreative.com. I'm happy to help anytime you need it. And that's all I have for this one. It's time to move on to the next one. Thank you for watching. And until next time, we'll see you.